What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original content you watch on the WWE Network, as well as on the USA Network, as today we're talking Season 2, Episode 6 of Straight Up Steve Austin, featuring special guest Bert Kreischer. I believe is how you pronounce his last name. I believe that's how Steve pronounced it here on the show. I've been saying Kreischer. I believe it's Kreischer. But he is a stand-up comedian. I'm not too overly familiar with his work. I haven't seen a lot of his stand-up. I do know, I believe right now he's a guest host. He's one of the co-hosts, judges, whatever, on the Go Big show on TNT before or after Dynamite, whatever. I believe he's on that show. That's really the only time I've heard of him. But he was a great guest here. He was very entertaining, very fun-loving. You could tell he was having an awesome day. He was having an amazing day with Steve here on the show, so that was really cool. And he talks about how his special came out the day that lockdown started back in 2020, which felt like a million years ago. But I don't know if it was on Netflix or in the movie theaters. I don't remember. But he called up his agent and said, hey, I want this in drive-in theaters. And the guy told him, I don't really know if those are a thing anymore. And well, he made it a thing. And he ended up doing a stand-up show in North Carolina and at one of the drive-in theaters. And everyone was spaced out perfectly well. And everyone was wearing masks. And it ended up going really, really well. And he's currently on his fourth tour right now, and he believes by the time that he's done with this thing, he's going to be at every drive-in theater in the world, at least in the country, which is cool. They talk about his various nicknames and why he loves being called the Machine, and the origin of that nickname, I guess, to Russian gangsters that he roomed with in like college or something. He was making a joke, and he accidentally called himself the Machine or like the Car or something instead of what he wanted to be called, so that was the origin of that. He also tells a story of going to Moscow and how he ended up robbing a bar and a train where his classmates were on the train while he was drunk. And he almost got arrested for it. And the last thought that he had in his mind right before he got caught by the cops was, this is my last second of freedom before I go in the gulag or whatever, you know? And they told him that he wasn't in trouble. It's Russia. Like, just don't worry about it or whatever. And that story ended up going viral because of someone that was in his class who was like, yeah, I was on the trip. I ended up getting robbed, blah, blah, blah. And they shared pictures on Facebook, and it blew up. And he thought he would get canceled, and apparently not, even though that's a pretty bad thing to do. But I guess he wasn't canceled for it. So he talks about buying a Glock and, being an owner of a firearm, whatever, a firearm owner. And he said that he took some training for it. And when Steve asked, would you be comfortable, if it came down to it, protecting your family with that gun? And I guess the wife took training too. He said, well, I would just be more comfortable giving the gun to my wife and letting her protect us because she is way more comfortable killing someone than I am. So I thought that was funny. Then they drive through some fire here before they do some shooting in a moving vehicle at Targets. And it was really, really cool how they did this. So Kreischer ended up taking him 14 rounds to shoot 5 targets, which I thought was very impressive, and it was. Austin ended up beating that record. He shot the first 4 targets, just boom, 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 boom. In the 5th one, it took him an extra couple rounds. He thought he might not win there for a second. The pressure was building up. He ended up beating Kreischer. Ended up shooting the target and beating his record. And then they drink some of Austin's IPA before building a swimming pool. Why? I guess just because it's hot? I don't know. They talk about some random shit where Bert did yoga 15 times in a month once during Sober October a few years ago, and he absolutely hated it. He also talked about running a marathon one time, the Los Angeles Marathon, without training a single time beforehand. Because he was told, oh, you can never do that, it's impossible, so he did it. It took him 5 hours and 33 minutes to do it, but he fucking did it. And then Steve was like, oh, that's impressive. And then Bert said, well, Oprah did it in 4 hours, so maybe it's not all that impressive anyway, but he did it. And his whole claim to fame was that he was named in 1997 the number 1 partier in America in a Rolling Stones article. And that really was what kicked off his career, and it took him a long time to be appreciative of that. And he believes that he would not be able to do what he's doing now with stand-up comedy and everything else had it not been for that article. And it really gave him the confidence that he needed to do stand-up in New York and move out to California and all this other stuff. And he says, making people laugh, it goes way back before that article. It's always made his day. And how he would be offended when he would be at parties and people would say to him, hey, come meet my friend Steve. He's the funniest guy I know. And he would think to himself, well, you know me. Aren't I the funniest guy you know? Like stuff like that. So he also shares a story about competing in his first talent show in first grade and how you should always start out at a small level and kind of work your way up from there. And he mentions how all of his material in his shows is very real, all real stories, and how once you work your way up, you kind of have to ask permission for some of these stories, talking about, your dad cheating on your mom and stuff like that, and it's very real stuff. So he's had to get permission for a few things that he's had to share in his shows, and he also explains why he would never cheat on his wife, and that being that he loves his wife and his kids very, very much, and he would never do anything to jeopardize those pure moments. As cheesy as it sounds, he says, he would never do anything with a stripper or whatever and have to live with that, that regret or whatever for the rest of his life. And that's some great advice that everyone can take a page out of that book. So I thought that was really cool. And then to close out the show, Steve does his usual takeaways from hanging out with Bert for the day. And they eat their steaks because they were cooking steaks while they were talking before, while they stand in this swimming pool that's filled up to their ankles, and that's about it. Well, Bert is wearing like a friggin' Speedo, and a visual I did not need to say. And then Steve is wearing a bathing suit. I don't know if I've ever seen Steve Austin in a bathing suit, but you get that. That's the content that you get here in the Straight Up Steve Austin show. So this was good stuff. A very enjoyable episode for a guy that I really didn't know a lot about in Bert Kreischer. This ended up being a blast. So yeah, definitely check it out right now. It's available on NBC.com, USANetwork.com, whatever. New episodes every week after Monday Night Raw. I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure next week is the season finale. I know the Charlotte Flair episode is still coming up. I think that's coming up next week. I don't know of any other guests that Steve has here on the show in the second season. I think we've gone through everyone from Ice-T to Brett Favre to Tiffany Haddish, and I already mentioned Ice-T, to Luke Combs and everyone else, Steve-O and now Bert Kreischer. I think we've gotten everyone except for Charlotte, so that might be the season finale next week. I'm not sure. Usually these reviews of mine go up on Tuesdays, but due to the layout of the channel and what I have going up each day this week, including 2 interviews with Karrion Kross on Wednesday and The Miz on Thursday, both of which are up right now. Go out of your way and check those out if you're a wrestling fan. This is going up on Friday. It might go up on Friday next week. Not 100% sure yet. But yeah, check out the episode when you can. Check out these reviews in the description box down below. I would appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. We are quickly closing in on 5,000 subscribers, so please help me reach that awesome milestone by subscribing today if you haven't already. I mean, if you've been subscribed for a while, then I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Have a great one, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.